In the winter of 1977, a deep, bone-chilling cold settled over Chicago, wrapping the city in a blanket of silence. In a small apartment lived Teresita Basa, a respiratory therapist known for her gentle nature and private, disciplined life. Her world was one of routine and calm, a world that was about to be shattered in the most brutal way imaginable. One evening, smoke began to pour from under her apartment door. Firefighters arrived, expecting a routine blaze, but what they found was a scene of unspeakable horror. Teresita's body was discovered amidst the charred wreckage, stabbed, burned, and left behind. The fire, it turned out, wasn't the cause of death. It was a desperate attempt to erase a murder. Investigators quickly determined the fire was arson, the murder, a vicious act of violence. But with no signs of forced entry, no witnesses, and no obvious motive, the case hit a dead end almost as soon as it began. It was filed away, another unsolved tragedy, in a city that had seen too many. Weeks turned into months, and the trail grew colder than the Chicago winter itself. Justice for Teresita Basa seemed like a lost cause. But then, something extraordinary began to unfold. At the very same hospital where Teresita had worked, a coworker named Remy Chua started experiencing strange, unsettling episodes. At first they were minor, sudden, crippling headaches and waves of inexplicable sadness. But soon, these moments darkened, spiraling into something far more profound and terrifying. Remy would slip into trance-like states, her entire demeanor changing. Her posture would shift, and when she spoke, her voice was no longer her own. It was deeper, tinged with a distinct accent. It was a voice that spoke in Tagalog, the native language of the Philippines. It was Teresita Basa's voice. Nurses and doctors watched in stunned silence as Remy, in these trances, claimed she was not Remy. She was Teresita. She was dead, and she had been murdered. What followed was a story that would send shivers down the spines of even the most hardened police detectives. Speaking through Remy, Teresita recounted the night of her death with chilling precision. She described a man entering her apartment, an argument that escalated into violence, and the fire that was set to conceal the crime. She didn't just describe the events. She calmly and clearly named her killer, Alan Showery, an orderly who also worked at the hospital. This ghostly voice didn't stop there. It went on to describe specific pieces of jewelry that had been stolen from her apartment, heirlooms and personal items that only she would know. The details were too specific, too intimate, too accurate to be dismissed as a delusion or a hoax. Desperate for a break in the case, investigators reluctantly decided to follow this bizarre, otherworldly lead. They brought Alan Showery in for questioning. At first, he was defiant, scoffing at the ridiculous idea of being accused by a ghost. He denied everything, his confidence unwavering. But the police didn't give up. They dug deeper, and soon their investigation led them to Showery's girlfriend. That's when they found it. In her possession was the very jewelry that the voice, speaking through Remy, had described. These were items that had never been mentioned in any public report. Faced with irrefutable evidence that only the killer could have known about, Alan Showery's confident facade crumbled. He broke down and confessed to everything. He admitted to the robbery, the murder, and his failed attempt to burn the evidence and Teresita away. Showery was convicted in court, and the case was officially closed. But for everyone involved, nothing about it ever felt truly finished. There was no logical, rational explanation for what had happened. How could Remy Chua have known those intimate details? How could she speak in a voice and accent that were not her own, describing a crime she'd never witnessed? She had no history of mental illness, no access to police files, and no conceivable motive to invent such a complex and disturbing story. As soon as the confession was secured and the killer was behind bars, the possession stopped. Remy Chua returned to herself, shaken and unable to explain the terrifying ordeal her body and mind had just been through. It was as if Teresita Basa, having finally achieved justice, had found her peace and fallen silent. To this day, the murder of Teresita Basa remains one of the only cases in legal history where a conviction was secured based on what the police themselves acknowledged as paranormal intervention. This wasn't a staged seance or a call to a psychic hotline. This was the story of a murdered woman who, it seems, refused to let her killer get away with it. It leaves us with a lingering, terrifying question. It's not about whether ghosts are real, but whether some crimes are so unjust, so unfinished, that the dead themselves must return to see them through. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as chilling and fascinating as we did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most mysterious cases. We'll see you in the next one.